Annesi and the rest of of your guests. Hey, listen, I'm really sorry I'm not there. Little thing got to do with a back injury, but anyway, I want to say hello to everybody. And Tony, I want to say this much: you're a real contributor to the martial arts. You've done so much, and you work very hard. It saddens me that I won't be seeing some of you guys. Sorry I'm not there. You guys make sure that you keep the idea with the martial arts well and alive. Tony, thank you so much.
What I wanted to do on my 50th is not make this about me. I wanted to offer something back to the martial arts community by inviting people who I respect, who I think have knowledge in the martial arts, and I wanted other martial artists to be able to hear what they had to say about things. West Tasker! West or late?
So the first question is two parts. What is a foundational technique or form from your system? And then the second part for that is how does it then further appear in the system?
So if we were doing an Aiki technique and we call it Takeshin Shomi-odori, also known as Kamishin-ryu, also known as Hakodori in Hakoru-jutsu, just the release is like this. It's a no-brainer, it's pretty simple. Most people try to pull at it, but you actually rotate your elbow. And as Ian said, it comes from a sword motion. So now we have a release. But we could have done it at a different angle with a different rotation and get a structuring sort of thing where he's off balance and locked into position. Okay? So now you don't think of that as something that would react that way, but it does. You can also do it as a pass. So this comes up at an angle, this goes like this. Now you've locked him, come down, you've locked him in position again, he can't use his arms. So there's so many variations. If he punches my face, I come up and I do this, and I've locked his arm in doing it. And I come down, and I hit him, and this is coming down the way this hand would come down, and you've done it. So it's what you started off as a basic like this. You know, a beginner wants to escape. Turns out that you can actually grow from it and do a whole number of other things with minimal effort. Okay? So that's how it morphs into advanced things. Thank you, sir.
What would be an example of an intermediate, what you would consider an intermediate technique within the system or systems you teach? And then the second part would be, how do you differentiate it from the basic? Cyrus, Kwanjang-nim, go.
It's this getting back to that same skill. That my beginning students will start out, say, wrist grab. Now, the fact that he extended his arm and clamped down on me, this should never really happen. Agreed? That should never happen. True HapGi or Aiki is grab. It's that, right? And then you have that. That's, in other words, the instant he makes contact with you, that would be the thing I would emphasize at the intermediate level. And as this thing progressed, Aiki, this extension of energy, like I said, it's a sword. Now, if I had a stick or a sword here, I would demonstrate what that means. But let's just imagine that I have a sword in my hand, and he grabs my wrist. I'm trying to deploy the sword, right? And he grabs me. to stop me from deploying that sword. You can grab the two hands. It's fine. I should be able to deploy that sword, right, without him stopping me from doing it. That's the idea. So as you progress through the ranks, your application of that principle becomes more sophisticated. Whether
You could say, what's an intermediate technique? It's an intermediate before black belt, or is it an intermediate black belt technique? And that's how it's listed, but if I taught that intermediate black belt technique at green belt, which is the middle of the promotions to black belt, you'd think it was an intermediate Shodan technique, black belt technique. So it really depends on where it fits in a curriculum and how it's taught. So let's say there's a technique called Kotegaeshi, which we do this and we throw them over. Okay, and that's a very complicated, beautiful technique. Most systems of Aiki and Jiu-Jitsu have it. But it's a complicated technique, and it's unlikely to work like that on the street. However, we require it at intermediate. Why? Because obviously we're not just doing escapes anymore. We're trying to understand the beginning of what makes the person function, make the technique function on the person biomechanically. So if he punches me and I do this, I have a fake that allows me to do the turn. Here, everybody wants to wrap the arm around. We do a relaxed arm so his arm drops, his weight goes to this foot. We collapse this knee so that back pressure turns him around, not my arm pulling him. I draw back to off balance him a little more. And I don't swing his arm around and do the typical Kotegaeshi. Master Cyrus has a video clip on a similar thing. I was amazed. I saw it on Facebook. I said, hey, that's what I do. And so, for example, what we do is just roll this radius down under his ulna to throw him. Well, do you think you can do that in actual self-defense? Yeah, if the guy is punching you like this, but how many times does that actually happen in self-defense? So the idea is to learn that as an intermediate so that when it manifests as a more advanced technique, you have certain principles in your body. So for example, it could be that, just punch me. In fact, it could be that I do this, and I do this. Much more efficient. Haven't done anything to him. And it's done. Didn't rotate the arm, didn't float him back, but a lot of principles are being used. So
a lot of times, like say a down block, basic down block, whether it's this way or to the outside, it really doesn't make any difference. Might step in and pull that way, or step back and hit that way. I get you?
yes.
Okay. What we do now is that. So we might pull the down pressure of this one here, and then this either would come into a secondary, or we would use this as a strike, or pull in here. So a lot of times the prep move can all of a sudden be emphasized instead of what you would consider to be the block, a standard block. So you might use this and emphasize this one and then use the strike. So we would sometimes use that as an advanced form of teaching receptions or blocks. So
beginning students will do what beginning students do. So let's say a straight punch to the face. If I show them to do that, they'll appreciate that because that's a straight, hit, and students can pick that up. But then when I move it from there and go, that becomes a little worse, a little more complicated. So for us, again, that would be a little more advanced portion of it. Why? Because I'm deflecting, I'm hitting, coming in kokyo, breaking the arm some more, hitting, breaking rib, and coming in here. So the combination of all those movements is what's going to make it more advanced.
So let me just say one more thing. I had a list of about 10 people that I could invite that I've worked with before that I considered to be high-level people that we either stylistic heads, head of federations, that I respected their work. Obviously, Hanshi Jutnik couldn't be here. These guys have done a fantastic job, and I thank them again for coming. But I also want to mention that I didn't get to the other people because of the first 5 people I asked, all but one said, sure, we'll jump on, okay? But the other guys I could have asked right off the top of my head, Elmar Schmeiser, Roberto Torres, Toby Threadgill, Ron Yamanaka, Keith Yates, all of those guys I could have asked, and on the next 50th I will. All right, so I want to thank these gentlemen. Let's have a hand for them for coming. And thank you all for celebrating this. We're going to do one last thing. We'd like to take one gigundo group picture against the Bushido Kai band.